just a confirmation for me, because I got called out one time. I don't remember how I went down the first time. It was weird though, because the minister he kind of, sometimes he just talks and people go down. Other times he like puts his hand like down on your head and like you start bending like really far backwards. And
that's leaning out of hands.
Well, but it was weird because I was literally like bending this backwards and I felt like I was trying to get up and I was like stuck. It was the weirdest thing, and I know this, somebody was there to catch me, but it was like trying to get up and I'm like, I couldn't get up. It was the weirdest thing. I never had that happen, but and then it was just a confirmation, because what the Lord said to me through the minister was, that had pertained to his will, and he has, a couple, but I know that there's an order to where he has me and where he's taking me. And really it was, to really step more into my role with my kids, because that's just one of the things when I was saved at 19, he was like, you're gonna have a family, and it's so important to him that I really and stepping into this role as a mom. I think there's been, the devil has tried to come into our home for years to try to undermine my motherhood, through, as you know, we have kids coming from another home, so there's always this sneaky little thing trying to sneak in, and through that though, God's just, he's confirming that nope, you have a destiny and I want you to step into that. And so part of that has been getting healed and delivered from spirit of abandonment, because the spirit of abandonment is wanting to tell me there's time for everybody else but not for you, so don't worry about it, because as long as everybody else got their time or what they need, that's so wrong. It's like so it's, as part of that, it's like walking out that process and God healing me even more, but showing me. So that was just a confirmation that of the path that I'm on and what God was showing me. So it was good that in that sense.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Did you want to share your testimony?
I do, but I'm going to wait a little bit because I have some scriptures to go into with it too.
Oh,
so I know Sarah.
I thought it was interesting. No, just the words of knowledge that he was having, how he just went through the pastors, all his kids, grandkids, knew what they were, and how he tied even Shirley. They were both from Philadelphia, and he said both of you have family lines that go back to 1930. So there was something that was going on in Louisiana, a cult or something, that both their families were in at one time. And yet they're both in Washington, but they're both originally from Illinois back then. And then he just called her by last name, the Snow family, and it was just like boom, boom, boom. And then when he was talking with him, he mentioned you by name, and he's like, yes. But that was cool.
And the cool thing about, I didn't know this, but when a prophet and a man, he's an apostle prophet, when they are given those words of knowledge or words of wisdom and things, and they're just calling out addresses, birth dates, whatever, phone numbers, names, it's actually there's an anointing on it, and it's there's a release in the spirit realm.
Yeah,
so
he
you
was
don't
talking
have to
about
have
this deliverance. He says, I'm in the spirit. This is what's going on. I'm picking up in the spirit, and he's just releasing it.
Well, he started just releasing names, but then he didn't say anything about it. Like, and that was okay. He didn't have to, because
it was being taken care
in
of.
the spirit. It was happening.
Delane, I did hear him say Apache Mountain. He said Apache Mountains, right? Mountains. Is that in Texas or Arizona? Texas, Arizona, both.
No.
Or Arizona.
Arizona.
Okay, so there was an Apache. He was like, why am I hearing Apache? It was either a mountain or peak, and then he said something else, a year, 1700 something. And Delene, because she's recovering from a stroke, so she was trying to tell us, but she was like writing it down. She was letting out holy cry, that God had done. There was a curse broken off of her family line from the 1700s out of Apache. And so even though he called that out in the spirit and she didn't go up there and say anything, she knew what the Lord was doing. And so that was, the fact that the Spirit of the Lord can just use a prophet to speak a name, and there's there's something that shifts in the spirit realm. Is I didn't know that, but he taught on that for 2 days.
Yeah, basically he was saying when he's like you guys, you think this is just could be a joke or whatever. He's like, but I'm saying these names, and he's like, and in the spirit I'm seeing what's going on in the spirit, and he's like, I'm unraveling things. I'm battling in the spirit. I'm just saying the name, but he was talking about what he was doing in the spirit. And it was so powerful because he was he would look at somebody and then he'd be like, and it was funny because I know he was seeing something in the spirit, but he'd be like, he'd see a row of people and he'd be like, when did you born? You were born in June. And then they'd be like, yeah.
And
then he'd be like,
that.
and he'd be like, 20th. And they'd be like, yeah, June 20th is my birthday.
And then
1973.
Didn't it seem like this? He'd listen back like he was listening to an angel or something like that, and then say what he was saying.
Yeah, it was crazy. He was so accurate, and it was funny because he did it on Sunday morning. You guys were there. He did it to Pastor, and he called out Pastor's mom with the day she was born. I think he called out also the day she died. He called out his
and they knew
brothers.
When it passed on.
He was like, this name, and he's like, yeah, they're no longer here with us. And he's like, yeah, that one's gone now. And he's like, yep, and blah, 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 blah. And he was like, he got brothers, he got cousins, he got nephews.
He got a lot of breakthrough.
And it was really cool when you were talking about Shelly, because he was like, I just saw a light jump from Pastor to that woman, Shelly.
Yeah.
He called her name out, and she's like, he's like, you're Shelly. And she's like, or what'd she say? She was like, yeah, I'm Shelly. He's like, no, I'm telling you your name is Shelly. I'm not asking you. He's like, no, you are Shelly. And then he's like, and then her last name is Snow. And he's like, and God is doing something with the Snow family. And
all of her daughters are gonna be radically.
And he
saved,
just was.
It
was cool.
Oh, they're all saved.
He did it every single day. He did it for 4 days. He did that every time. And he just called name after name after name. And he got one whole family that was in a row on, I think it was Saturday night or Sunday night. And he called the woman and he's like, where's your husband? But he didn't catch what he was saying. The husband was sitting right next to her. And he's like, if the husband was here, I would ask him about this date. And then she's like, oh, you mean my husband? And he's like, and then he called out the name or something. And he's like, yeah, that's me. So he stood up and then he's like, who's this person? Oh, that's my son. He's right here. And it was just like the whole family in one row. He got all the names of that whole family. Wow. And was saying one kid, he was like, you need to hang on to God because something's coming for you. And I mean, most of the time he would just say the names and say God is doing something. But other times he would give specific warnings. But it was powerful. I mean, I've never seen a prophet like that will.
No, Alf Lacal.
What's that?
Alf Lacal would always do that.
I've never seen one personally. That was neat for me.
And they do that once a year. They have that crusade every year.
Oh,
yeah.
Through House of Refuge.
I wanted to go, but we had this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
It was
That's
unfortunate.
next year.
Yeah.
There's going to be another year, and
Yeah.
I think it's going to be way bigger next year because the word's going to get out. Because he definitely was a real prophet. He wasn't
Where's he
playing
from?
around. From South Africa.
Uganda.
Well, he's from
No,
Uganda?
No, the other one was from Uganda. The pastor.
Yeah, he's from South Africa, I think. Yeah, he's got a church down there. And they flew him up here for the crusade. I guess they do it every year. But yeah, that was something else.
Was Luke there?
Yeah, he called out Luke too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he did.
You call him Luther?
No, he said Luke.
Oh, come on.
What was funny because he called out Pastor, and this is something that I think is really powerful for what God's doing right now, is he was doing all this stuff for Pastor on Sunday. He said Pastor, he was like literally just so much was about Pastor. And then he was like, he's like, you guys want to know what's going on here? He said, God is dealing with the head of this ministry because when God deals with these things, it's going to flow down into all the other people and other ministries, he actually said. And so that includes us because we're under House of Refuge. And so he was doing all this stuff and opening up the floodgates, basically, of the Spirit, the blocking, because the head, right? everything's gonna flow down.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was dealing with Pastor, but it was funny because he said he was talking to Pastor. He's like, this is so great. He's like, Luke all of a sudden is gonna say, praise the Lord, and then Luke just. And then another name of a gal was named Rose, and then he's like, and then Rose is gonna say, and it was so funny.